Hey, what's up everyone? How you all doing? Today we're going to be taking a look at the quad rockets, particularly in Titan vs. Titan combat. The gameplay you're going to be seeing is just a hodgepodge of clips that I've cherry-picked that I believe demonstrate the quad rockets' abilities fairly and well. So without much further ado, let's get started. So, first things first with the quad rocket is it's not the best Titan vs. Titan weapon. It is competent and you can use it with some success, but there aren't a whole lot of situations where the quad rocket really outshines any other Titan weapon in Titan vs. Titan combat specifically. So now you might be asking yourself, well, why should I even bother using the quad rocket then? You know, we have the arc cannon, we have 40mm cannon, we have the triple threat. You know, those are all excellent Titan vs. Titan weapons. Why should I bother with the quad rockets? The answer to that question is actually going to be versatility. The quad rockets are effective versus Titans, they're effective versus pilots, effective versus infantry. The only situation where they're not totally viable is shooting pilots off of roofs. But not a lot of weapons can do that well. You're going to need arc cannon, 40mm cannon, or most preferably triple threat to really do that particular job well. But in a general application role, especially outside of Last Titan Standing, the quad rockets are very, very versatile. One thing that's really important to note with the quad rockets is you don't need to be looking for direct hits whatsoever. If you look at the damage stats, getting a direct hit with a quad rocket is 320 damage per rocket, so 320 times 4. Now the explosion damage of quad rockets is also 320 times 4, so they don't stack. If you get a direct hit along with the explosion, you know, you don't do the damage twice. It's either you get a direct hit and do 320 damage, or they get splashed for 320 damage. There's no difference, so really you never need to be aiming for direct hits unless the Titans are at such a long range away that you just cannot feasibly splash them. So with these damage numbers presented, now we know that shooting the Titan's feet is equally effective to actually trying to go for direct hits. So there's no reason to go for a direct hit unless they're at extreme range and you're just kind of putting shots out there, and if they hit, cool, and if not, you know, oh well, whatever. So now we're going to be getting into the actual class itself. I'm going to be focusing on the best class for actual Titan vs. Titan combat. You know, it doesn't take a genius to be able to point a quad rocket at a pilot and point and click and shoot and they blow up and die. You know, you don't need anything special to be able to do that well. The only thing I might mention is you might want to, in regular game types, I might go with a vortex shield over electric smoke, just because you're going to have pilots trying to shoot archer rockets at you and you want to be able to block those. But that's like the only real difference between that kind of loadout and a Last Titan Standing loadout. So for Last Titan Standing, you're going to see me throughout all these clips, I keep using different ordinances and different tactical abilities, and that's just because there really doesn't seem to be a best and worst kind of loadout for the quad rockets in Titan vs. Titan. You know, you can make good use of pretty much anything that's not the particle wall. So when it comes to the actual quad rockets attachment, I'm going to be going for simply extended mags. In my opinion, rapid fire doesn't allow you to get the DPS or damage per second that you really want to be getting versus Titans, and it just doesn't seem to be as useful versus Titans as it does for stuff like pilots and infantry. Now for the actual Titan kits, I prefer to use Dash Quick Charger just because I want to be as mobile as possible, and I like to use Big Punch. Now, I normally really dislike Big Punch, but since the quad rockets have significant problems breaking the shields of enemy Titans, what I like to do is whenever I'm able to find a Titan that doesn't directly see me, you know, if I'm able to flank him or come up behind him, I like to just run up and get a Big Punch off, because that's going to take off most, if not all, their shields right away. So I can do that and drop smoke or a cluster missile if I have either of those equipped, and then immediately dash back and start plinking away at them with missiles. Now, while my quad rockets class has been in a big state of flux over the past few days in terms of my actual ordinances, I think I'm finally starting to settle on just my tried and true standard of cluster missile and electric smoke. In what is becoming easily my most favorite tactic with the quad rocket, is actually going to be running up to an enemy and putting smoke directly on him, and then just starting to splash the entire cloud, and directly behind the cloud with quad rockets, because I don't need to be scoring direct hits. I don't need to see their Titans. I just know that if they're in smoke, if they're not immediately dashing towards me, they're going to be going back to the other side of the smoke so they can take advantage of the cover as well. So I can take advantage of their taking advantage of my smoke, and I can yo-dog them with my quad rockets, and you know, they'll never see what's coming, literally. And then cluster missiles are always a staple. As soon as they hit your target, they immediately start blowing up and doing massive amount of damage. So if you use those at relatively close range, and especially versus Titans that just don't see you, you can immediately drop their shields and like half a bar of their health before they even realize that they're standing on top of a cluster missile and they have to move. So with all that said, I'll leave a screenshot with the actual entire class loadout at the end of the video. I don't really want to interrupt right in the middle with the picture. I'll just put that at the very end so you can focus on the gameplay and you can see the loadout at the very end and you can pause it to your heart's content. And finally, I have just the end of this clip plus one more to show you guys, so as has been my standard practice in the other videos, I'm just going to do a little bit of commentary over, you know, what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. In this clip, I see a Strider right here, so I'm going to start putting shots down on him. I know he's going to come right back towards me, so I put smoke down, and I just put a big punch out there because I know he's going to try and retreat through the smoke. So the big punch just forces him to stick right there and take all those massive amounts of damage, and you know, he had no chance. There was nowhere for him to go, nothing for him to do. The electric smoke and big punch are extremely important, and it just goes to show right there. So in this clip, I'm just taking my time splashing those enemies, you know, trying to work around their vortex, or excuse me, their particle wall. There's an enemy over here that I know wants to try and retreat behind those rocks, but I put a cluster missile right down immediately, so he cannot go back behind there. He has to continue engaging me, and then the electric smoke allows me to retreat behind cover, in addition to him not being able to chase me directly while my shields recharge. So as soon as that smoke goes down, he comes around the corner, and I just start splashing him with missiles. There's nothing he can do. Finally, we're going to deal with this sniper who was foolish enough to actually engage me close range. So basically, it's just going to be a big punch with smoke, and then shooting the rockets through the smoke, as has kind of become my standard practice with the quad rockets. He never stood a chance. He engaged me poorly. And that's, I guess, more the strength of Strider than it is the quad rockets, is you're forcing enemies to engage you in locations and manners that they don't want to be engaging you in. So that's all for me today, guys. Again, thank you for watching. I hope you learned something new. Please like, favorite, comment, subscribe, all that kind of stuff. You know the drill. Again, thank you for watching. Hope you learned something new. We'll see you next time.